Right now, somewhere, someone is listening to a pop song they can't get out of their head. Maybe it's Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift, or As It Was by Harry Styles, or Flowers by Miley Cyrus. The melody feels fresh, modern, uniquely 2020 seconds. But here's what they don't know, that hook uses mathematical ratios discovered by Pythagoras 2,500 years ago. The chord progression follows patterns codified by medieval monks. The emotional impact relies on modal theory refined over millennia. Pop music isn't as modern as it sounds. It's ancient theory wrapped in contemporary production, and once you see the patterns, you can't unsee them. Every chart topper reveals the invisible architecture. Every infectious melody follows rules older than written music itself. This is about why music works, why certain sounds feel good together, why you can't get that chorus out of your head. The answers are ancient, but they're playing on your phone right now. The blacksmith discovery. Pythagoras, around 500 BCE, was walking past a blacksmith shop. He heard hammers striking anvils at different pitches. Some combinations sounded harmonious, others clashed. He investigated, measured the hammers, found precise mathematical relationships. A hammer twice the weight of another produced a note exactly an octave higher. A 3-to-2 ratio produced what we call a perfect fifth. A 4-to-3 ratio produced a perfect fourth. This wasn't just observation, it was revolutionary. Harmony is mathematics. Pleasant sounds aren't subjective. They're based on simple whole number ratios. The universal intervals. These ratios Pythagoras discovered aren't culturally specific. They appear in music worldwide. The octave 2:1 ratio. Every musical culture recognizes notes an octave apart as the same note. This isn't learned. It's how human auditory processing works. The perfect fifth 3:2 ratio appears in Chinese guqin music, Indian ragas, African polyphony, medieval European chant. Different cultures, same interval, because it's mathematically fundamental. Modern pop music uses these exact ratios constantly. Every power chord in pop rock, perfect fifths. Every bass line emphasizing the fifth, Pythagorean ratio from 500 BCE. Why it works. When you hear two notes in a 2-to-1 ratio, their sound waves align perfectly. One wave completes two cycles while the other completes one. The pattern repeats. Your brain recognizes the repetition as consonants, as sounds good. More complex ratios 3-2, 4-to-3 create patterns that repeat less frequently, but still regularly. Slightly more tense than octaves, but still harmonious. Irrational ratios like tritones, roughly 7-to-5, create patterns that almost never align perfectly. Your brain registers this as dissonance, as tension needing resolution. Pop songwriters don't think about ratios consciously, but when they find a hook that works, they're rediscovering Pythagorean mathematics. The modal system. Medieval music theorists, building on Greek foundations, codified the modal system. 7 modes, each starting on a different note of the scale, each creating a distinct emotional character. Ionian mode, what we call major scale, bright, happy, resolved. Dorian mode, serious but hopeful, slightly melancholic but not sad. Phrygian mode, dark, exotic, tense. Lydian mode, dreamy, fleeting, and slightly unstable. Mixolydian mode, uplifting but earthier than Ionian. Aeolian mode, natural minor, melancholic, introspective. Locrian mode, unstable, rarely used because it's so dissonant. These emotional associations aren't arbitrary. They stem from the specific interval patterns within each mode. This inherited knowledge leads to timeless patterns. The famous 4-chord progression you hear in countless hits creates a perfect, satisfying emotional loop. Rhythm is also built on ancient foundations. The natural, heartbeat-like rhythm of language was analyzed by ancient Greeks, and it's the same rhythm that makes many pop melodies feel so catchy. Pop producers create infectious grooves by playing with this expectation, creating a tension and release that is timeless. Even a song's structure can follow hidden mathematical rules. The golden ratio, a number found throughout nature, often marks the most dramatic and satisfying moment in a song. like the epic guitar solo in Bohemian Rhapsody. More advanced tricks, like the circle of fifths, a medieval map for navigating between keys, are used to create uplifting key changes, like the famous one in Bon Jovi's "Livin' on a Prayer." Pop's modal palette. Modern pop overwhelmingly uses two modes, Ionian major and Aeolian minor, but the interesting songs often incorporate other modes. Radioactive by Imagine Dragons uses Dorian mode for its dark, but not depressing vibe. The raised 6th degree compared to natural minor creates hope within melancholy. Mad World by Tears for Fears Gary Jules cover. Phrygian mode creates its haunting, disconnected feeling. The lowered 2nd degree produces that characteristic, exotic tension. Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. Mixolydian mode. The lowered 7th creates a relaxed, flowing quality that's uplifting without being aggressively cheerful. Producers don't always know they're using these modes, but when they find a vibe that works, they're accessing emotional architectures refined over 1,000 years. Why ancient theory persists. Music theory isn't arbitrary rules. It describes patterns that emerge from physics, sound wave interactions, and human psychology, pattern recognition, emotional response. Pythagoras discovered that simple ratios sound good because they produce regular, repeating wave patterns. This physical fact hasn't changed. Modal theory describes emotional effects that arise from interval patterns. These effects are consistent because human auditory processing hasn't changed. Rhythmic patterns that feel natural correspond to patterns in speech and movement. These haven't changed. The producer's intuition. Modern pop producers often don't study ancient music theory. They work by ear, by feeling, by trial and error. But when they find something that works, they've often rediscovered ancient principles, because those principles describe what actually sounds good to human ears. Max Martin, producer behind countless hits for Britney Spears, Katy Perry, The Weeknd, doesn't consciously apply Pythagorean ratios, but his melodies use perfect fifths and fourths constantly because they work. Jack Antonoff, producer for Taylor Swift, Lana Del Rey, and others, uses modal mixture and sophisticated harmonic progressions that parallel Renaissance techniques. They're not copying the past. They're finding what sounds good. And what sounds good often aligns with ancient theory because the theory describes fundamental acoustic and psychological realities. The modern twist. Where modern pop diverges from ancient practice is production technology, auto-tune, sampling, digital synthesis. These tools are genuinely new, but underneath the production, the melodic, harmonic, and rhythmic foundations remain consistent with principles discovered and refined over millennia. A trap beat uses different sounds than a medieval chant, but if you analyze the harmonic structure, you'll often find the same interval relationships, the same cadential patterns, the same emotional architecture. Closing, listening with new ears. The invisible architecture. Next time you hear a pop song, listen deeper. That catchy hook, it's using interval ratios Pythagoras measured. That emotional progression, it's following modal theory from medieval monks. That satisfying ending, it's a cadence pattern refined in the Renaissance. That irresistible rhythm, it's built on patterns as old as poetry itself. None of this makes the music less creative. Understanding the architecture doesn't diminish the art. It reveals something profound. Music works because it taps into fundamental patterns. Patterns rooted in physics, in mathematics, in human psychology. The universal language. Music is called the universal language. This is why different cultures create different music. But the fundamental principles, the ratios that sound consonant, the rhythms that feel natural, the emotional effects of certain intervals, these transcend culture because they're based on human universals. A pop producer in Los Angeles, a traditional musician in India, folk singer in Ireland. When they find something that sounds good, they're all accessing the same mathematical and psychological foundations. Your relationship with music. You don't need to understand music theory to enjoy music. You never have. But knowing that the song stuck in your head uses principles discovered 2,500 years ago adds depth. It connects you to a continuum of human creativity spanning millennia. That pop hit isn't disposable. It's the latest expression of patterns that have moved humans for as long as we've made organized sound. Ancient music theory isn't dead knowledge in dusty books. It's alive in every song on the radio, every melody you hum, every rhythm that makes you move. Sounds Unseen Hand has been shaping music forever, and it's still working today. You just have to listen for it. Soft CTA. If understanding music's ancient foundations changed how you hear modern pop, share this with someone who loves music but never knew why it works. And if you want more explorations of how ancient knowledge shapes modern creativity, there's more here. Remember, the next time a song gets stuck in your head, you're experiencing mathematics, psychology, and 2,500 years of refined musical understanding. That's not just catchy, that's timeless.